The bell rings. Malik Thompson, a young black student, steps through the doors of Brookdale Middle School, new shoes, new backpack, and an old weight on his shoulders. The hall goes silent. Whispers follow him like shadows. He's never spoken a word, but they've already decided who he is. 3 students circle him, their words sharp and their eyes cold. But Malik doesn't flinch. He knows when to stay still, when to move, and when to let silence speak louder than any punch. What happens when strength is measured not by force, but by the quiet power of knowing who you truly are? The old Dodge Caravan hummed down Route 62 as the afternoon sun poured through the windshield, soft and golden, like it was trying to make things easier. It didn't. Malik Thompson, 13, sat slouched in the back seat, chin in hand, watching the new town blur past his window. Brookdale, another quiet place with clean sidewalks, smiling mailboxes, and lawns trimmed to perfection. He'd seen towns like this before, ones that looked safe on the outside but never made room for boys like him on the inside. His mother tapped the steering wheel in rhythm, as if the silence was too heavy to carry on its own. "You okay back there, baby?" she asked, not turning her head. Malik hesitated. "Yeah, new school. New start," she said, trying to inject hope into her voice. "Feels different this time. I think it's gonna be good here." He didn't answer, just stared at a group of joggers passing by, all white, all watching the car as it turned into the neighborhood. This wasn't the first move, not even the second. It was the 4th school in 3 years. Each time came with the same promises: better job, better pay, better future. But for Malik, it always meant one thing: starting over. Again. "Look," his mom added gently, "I know it's hard, but you know who you are. You hear me?" He gave a slight nod. "And if somebody tries you," she added, this time with a sharper edge. "I know. Breathe deep. Stay calm." She smiled at that, a little proud, a little worried. "That's right. Just like your uncle always said." They turned onto Maple Grove Drive, where every house looked like it came out of the same catalog. Beige siding, flag poles, 2-car garages. Malik shifted in his seat. "Do people even live here? Or is this like a movie set?" His mom let out a small laugh. "People live here, baby. Just not many that look like us." They pulled into the school parking lot. Brookdale Middle. It looked like every other school. Brick walls, big windows, kids standing in clumps out front, eyeing every car that rolled in. As the engine shut off, Malik took a long breath. "You ready?" his mom asked softly. "No, but let's go anyway." Outside, the autumn air felt sharp in his lungs. He could already feel the stares, quick glances, whispers, quiet shifts in energy. "Remember," she said as they reached the door, "you don't have to prove anything to anybody. You already are somebody." Malik nodded again, this time slower. He walked through the doors not with confidence, but with caution, the kind that comes from knowing you've been misjudged before, and likely will be again. This was Brookdale. But the wounds? The ones Malik carried? They came with him. The moment Malik stepped through the school doors, it began. The hum of lockers slamming and sneakers squeaking on tile faded into the background as his presence shifted the hallway. Conversations dipped mid-sentence. Eyes darted and lingered. Some kids looked out of sheer curiosity. Others with something colder behind their gaze. He kept walking. Head level, step steady. Brookdale Middle smelled like pencil shavings and cafeteria grease, familiar but distant. The walls were lined with motivational posters and banners that read, "Kindness starts here." Malik had learned a long time ago that slogans didn't change hearts. He found his locker, spun the dial slowly, and let the noise swell around him. "Yo, is that the new kid?" someone whispered just loud enough to be heard. "Looks mad already," another voice added, followed by a dry chuckle. Malik didn't turn, didn't flinch. Inside homeroom, a teacher with thick glasses and a voice like a morning podcast introduced him. "Everyone, this is Malik Thompson. Let's give him a warm Brookdale welcome." A few nods. One half-hearted clap. That was it. He took a seat in the back, where the quiet lived, where he could see everything without being seen too much. "Why he so quiet?" someone mumbled behind him. "He probably got kicked out of his last school," said another voice, one that didn't even bother to whisper. Still, Malik said nothing. His silence wasn't fear. It was strategy. By third period, the pattern was clear. Groups had formed, clusters of kids who ruled their turf with confidence and volume. Malik watched and learned. Brent, the loud one, cracked jokes loud enough for teachers to hear, but never get caught. Chase, always bouncing on his heels, like a fuse looking for a match. Tyler trailed them, laughing too hard at things that weren't funny. They hadn't spoken to Malik yet, but he felt it, that unspoken dare hanging in the air. At his locker, someone passed and muttered, "What's up, tough guy?" It wasn't a greeting. As the bell rang and students surged toward their next class, Malik leaned into the rhythm. He'd seen these moves before, in other hallways, under other ceilings. Brookdale didn't know him yet, but it had already decided what he was. And Malik? He was just getting started. By Thursday, Malik had mapped out the rhythm of Brookdale Middle. Who talked loud and got away with it? Who stayed invisible on purpose? Who cracked jokes to cover fear? But there was always a group like Brent's. At lunch, Malik took his tray, a sad slice of square pizza and a juice box, and made his way to the far corner, near the windows. It wasn't that he didn't want company. He just didn't trust what came with it. Not yet. As he sat down, someone stepped into view. A boy with a warm smile and a red hoodie. "Hey," the kid said. "You don't gotta sit alone. We got space." Malik looked up, cautious. "I'm Dev." "You?" "Malik." Dev gave a friendly nod. "Cool. Next time, man." It was a simple offer. No pressure. No pity. Malik appreciated that more than he let on. But peace doesn't last long when people are looking for a target. Not 5 minutes later, a voice broke the calm. Loud. Mocking. "Yo, is that your mom's lunch?" Malik turned his head slightly. Brent stood a few feet away, hands in his hoodie pockets. Chase hovered beside him, shifting side to side like he couldn't stand still. Tyler trailed behind, already smirking. Malik said nothing. "What's in the bag?" Brent asked, tilting his chin. "Karate belt? You gonna do flips or something?" "I'm eating," Malik said flatly. Brent chuckled. "He speaks." Then, quick as a slap, Chase smacked the milk carton off Malik's tray. It landed on the floor, spinning once before spilling into a pale puddle. Malik blinked. Once. The cafeteria didn't go silent, not completely. But something shifted. A few kids paused mid-bite. Dev stood, eyes locked on Brent. "Back off," Dev said. Brent scoffed. "Relax, man. We're just saying hi." That's not what it looked like. Chase sneered. "You gonna cry for him now?" Tyler laughed, but it came out thinner this time, unsure. Then Miss Garvey, one of the lunch aides, spotted the mess. "What happened?" "Just spilled," Brent said smoothly, already stepping back. They scattered before she asked again. Dev knelt down, grabbed napkins, and helped clean the tray. "You good?" he asked quietly. Malik nodded once. "Barely. They think they're funny," Dev muttered. "You just gotta keep your space." Malik didn't respond. He was already doing the math, not just of what had happened, but what was coming next. This wasn't about a milk carton. It never was. It was about sending a message. And Malik? He'd received it loud and clear. Malik didn't say a word for the rest of lunch. He sat, shoulders squared, eyes low, finishing what was left of his tray while the puddle of milk dried into a sticky sheen on the floor. Dev had gone back to his table but kept glancing Malik's way, unsure if he should have stayed. Malik appreciated what Dev did, but he also knew that kind of protection came with a price. People like Brent didn't like being challenged, even with words. The next few days confirmed it. In the hallways, Malik's shoulder got bumped more than once. "Accident," Chase would mutter with a smirk. His books hit the floor in math class twice. Tyler pretended not to notice. Brent never touched him, not directly. He was smarter than that. He made sure the jabs stayed just beneath the line teachers were watching. Malik stayed calm. He walked straighter. Talked less, if that was even possible. "You're not gonna say anything?" Dev asked him one afternoon by the lockers. "To who?" Malik replied, "Anybody. A teacher. A counselor. This is getting out of hand." Malik shook his head. "That's what they want. For me to make noise." Dev stared at him. "So what? You just keep taking it." "I'm not taking anything," Malik said quietly. "I'm choosing when to move." The words weren't bravado. They were steel wrapped in silence, the kind that doesn't rattle but holds tension like a drawn bow. That Friday, gym class meant dodgeball. Coach Winfrey's favorite excuse to let the chaos run free. Malik changed in the locker room like he always did, quick, quiet, facing the wall. He could hear Brent and Chase whispering 2 benches down. He didn't need to know the words. He knew the tone. On the court, Malik played smooth. Efficient. He didn't show off, didn't aim high. Just clean throws and quick dodges. Until Chase got cocky, stepped forward too fast, and Malik nailed him in the shin. Perfect shot. Legal. The whistle blew. Chase stumbled off, red-faced. In the locker room afterward, the mood shifted. You think you're slick out there? Chase asked, standing behind Malik as he tied his sneakers. I played the game, Malik said, not looking up. Brent leaned against a locker nearby, arms crossed. Kid thinks he's special, 'cause he can throw a ball. I didn't make anyone look dumb, Malik replied evenly. He just got hit. There was a pause. A beat. Tyler laughed too loud again, trying to keep the moment light. But Coach's voice echoed from the hallway, calling for everyone to move it. Brent and Chase backed off. For now. But Malik felt it in his bones. This wasn't over. It was loading. And when it came, he'd be ready. That Friday, Malik took the long way home. He usually cut straight through the side gate behind Brookdale Middle, but something in him said not today. Maybe it was instinct. Maybe it was the weight in his chest that hadn't eased since dodgeball. Either way, when he turned the corner past the empty bleachers and the rusted soccer goal, he saw them. Brent, Chase, Tyler, and Dev. Dev stood with his backpack still on, shoulders stiff, hands at his sides. He wasn't scared, but he was cornered. Malik slowed, didn't speak. He needed to see to understand. Brent's voice rang out. You always playing bodyguard now, Dev? That it? Dev didn't move. You always picking on people smaller than you? Chase laughed, stepping forward. You should watch who you defend. Tyler gave a half smirk, but his eyes were darting, unsure. Then, before another word could land, Malik stepped forward. 3 steps. Quiet. Intentional. Dev saw him first. Hey, Dev called without turning. You good? Malik didn't answer. He looked directly at Chase, calm, steady. Brent grinned. Well, look who finally showed up. Brought your belt with you, champ? Malik stepped beside Dev. You done talking? Chase blinked. What? I said, Malik repeated, voice even. Are you done? Chase puffed up, took a step forward, and gave Dev a light shove. Not hard, but enough. Enough to cross the line. Malik's hand went out, catching Dev before he stumbled. Then he turned fully to Chase. Don't do that again, he said. Chase squared up. Or what? You gonna cry? Malik didn't flinch. I'm serious. Brent laughed. This kid really thinks. But he didn't finish the sentence. Because Chase moved again, a quick, lazy shove coming toward Malik's chest. And that was enough. Malik didn't strike. He didn't lash out. He stepped in. One hand caught Chase's wrist mid-motion. The other swept low, catching his foot just enough to redirect his weight. And suddenly, Chase was on his back. Not hurt. Just grounded. Staring at the sky like it had betrayed him. Brent froze. Tyler's mouth opened, but no words came out. Malik stood over them, hands by his sides. Calm. In control. You good? He asked Dev. Dev, stunned, gave a small nod. Without another word, Malik turned and walked away, the sound of his sneakers brushing the gravel path. But the real impact wasn't in the fall. It was in the silence that followed him all the way down the field. The silence of a moment that rewrote everything. By Monday morning, Brookdale Middle felt different. Not louder. Not quieter. Just off. It started in the hallways. Heads turned when Malik walked by. Not with hostility, but not with comfort either. Teachers gave him longer looks. Students whispered just a beat after he passed. Even the ones who hadn't been there knew something had happened. Because the story spread fast. And like most middle school tales, it changed in every retelling. I heard he flipped Chase over his shoulder. Dude body slammed him like in the movies. Some kid said Brent got knocked out too. None of it was true, not completely. Malik hadn't thrown a punch. Hadn't raised his voice. He hadn't even looked angry. But none of that mattered. Because what people saw was a quiet black boy putting someone on the ground. And for some, that was enough to start labeling him. Dangerous. Aggressive. A threat. Dev caught up with him before third period. You hear what they're saying? Malik shrugged. I figured they would. You didn't even hit him. They don't care. Dev frowned. You're not mad. I don't have time to be mad. But Malik felt it, the weight of those whispers. The shift in how people saw him. Not as the kid who'd defended a friend, but as someone to watch closely. That afternoon, Ms. Driscoll pulled him aside after history class. She folded her glasses and looked at him with concern. I heard something happened behind the school on Friday, she said. Malik kept his face still. Yes, ma'am. Are you okay? I didn't throw a punch, he said simply. She studied him. That's what everyone says. He stayed quiet. Ms. Driscoll softened. Just be careful. Sometimes when things go quiet, it doesn't mean they're over. He nodded once, then stepped out into the hallway, where the silence was thicker than before. Later that day in gym, Coach Winfrey pulled him aside too. Arms folded, eyes measuring. "Your name came across my desk," the coach said. Malik didn't respond. "Some teachers think you should talk to someone. Counselor maybe. Just check in." "I'm fine. You sure?" Malik nodded. Coach studied him for a long moment. Then said, "Word of advice. Strong people don't need to prove it." Malik said nothing. But the words stayed with him. Not because they were new, his uncle had said almost the exact same thing once, but because hearing them here in this school from someone who didn't know him at all hit different. He left the locker room with his jaw tight, not from tension, but from control. He hadn't started anything. But now, everyone was watching like he had. And the worst part, some of them were hoping he'd give them a reason to keep watching. The following Wednesday, during advisory period, something changed. Normally, advisory was just 30 minutes of kids half paying attention, while teachers handed out flyers. A break from the day. Nothing meaningful ever came of it. But this time Ms. Keene, the school counselor, stepped into Malik's class with a clipboard and a quiet kind of authority that hushed even the loudest kids. "We're doing something different today," she said, her voice gentle but clear. "You'll each get a card. One question. You can answer if you want, or pass if you don't." The groans came first. Some eye rolls. A few students tried joking their way out of it. Malik, sitting near the back as always, said nothing. Ms. Keene passed out index cards. Malik flipped his over and read, "What's something people assume about you that isn't true?" He stared at it for a moment, then turned it face down. Around him, kids began reading theirs out loud. Some joked, brushing it off. Others surprised everyone. A girl admitted people thought she was rich because she wore nice shoes, but her mom worked 2 jobs and they lived in a 1-bedroom apartment. A boy said he played the class clown because it was easier than going home to silence. The room shifted. Softer. More human. Then Ms. Keene looked at Malik. "Would you like to share?" The room got quiet. Not mocking, just still. Watching. Malik looked up, then down. He picked up the card again. "Read it once more." Then quietly. "People think I'm angry because I'm quiet." He looked straight ahead, voice steady. "I'm not. I just think before I talk." There was a pause, the kind that hung heavy in the air but didn't break it. He didn't say more. He didn't need to. A few students nodded. One girl looked like she wanted to say something but didn't. Even Tyler, sitting 3 desks away, blinked like he'd never really looked at Malik until that moment. After class, Ms. Keene caught him outside the door. "Can I talk to you for a minute?" He nodded. They stepped aside near the lockers. "I heard about what happened last week," she said gently. "Behind the field. I know the teachers tried to keep it quiet, but students talk." Malik stayed silent. "I'm not here to scold you," she added. "Actually, I think you handled it better than most adults would have." He looked at her, uncertain. "Then why does it feel like I did something wrong?" She softened. "Because people aren't used to seeing calm and control from someone they've already misunderstood." Malik lowered his eyes. She stepped back but added, "This school's been needing a wake-up call." And then she said something he wouldn't forget. "You didn't change who you were, Malik. But you might have just changed how others see everyone like you." By the end of the week, something subtle had shifted at Brookdale. Malik noticed it first in the hallway. Kids didn't move away from him, but they didn't look through him either. There were no apologies, no speeches, just a different kind of space. One where he wasn't being measured, just observed. In gym class, Coach Winfrey gave him a nod, not one of approval, but of understanding. The kind grown men give when words aren't needed. And in the cafeteria, Dev slid back into the seat across from Malik like nothing had changed at all. "So," Dev said, peeling open a juice box, "you're kind of a myth now." Malik looked up. "A myth?" "Yeah. Somebody said you flipped Chase over your back and broke Brent's jaw with a death stare." Malik blinked. "Seriously?" Dev grinned. "Middle school is wild, man. You sneeze too loud and suddenly you're a ninja." Malik shook his head. "That's not what happened." "I know. You know. But stories spread fast when people are bored." Malik pushed his tray away slightly, appetite fading. "I didn't do it for attention." "I know that," Dev said, more serious now. "But some people noticed. And not just the ones you'd expect." Later that afternoon, Malik opened his locker and found something wedged inside. A folded piece of notebook paper. No name. Inside, a drawing, crude, done in pencil. A stick figure doing a high kick, with Judo Malik scribbled underneath in block letters. Not threatening. Not flattering. Just odd. He stared at it for a moment, then crumpled it and kept moving. But that wasn't the part that stuck with him. It was what happened near the gym doors later that day. Tyler stood there, hovering awkwardly as other students filtered past. His usual grin was gone, replaced by something closer to discomfort. When Malik stepped closer, Tyler cleared his throat. "Hey," he started, eyes flicking downward. "I didn't mean to, be part of all that." Malik said nothing. I laughed and stood there, yeah. But it wasn't like, I didn't think Chase would actually shove anybody. The silence stretched. "You're not saying anything," Tyler added, shifting on his feet. Malik finally spoke. "You don't get points for regret after someone else gets hurt." Tyler nodded slowly. "Yeah, I figured." He walked away without waiting for forgiveness. Malik didn't offer any. But he didn't carry the moment with bitterness either. Later, as he left the school building, Malik felt the wind push gently at his back, like the air itself had exhaled. He hadn't gone looking for change. But change, it seemed, had found him, through the cracks in other people's armor. Even the ones he thought would never break. By the start of the next week, the story had stopped being just about Malik. Something deeper had taken root at Brookdale. Not loud or dramatic, but present, like a shift in air pressure before a coming storm. Only this time, the storm didn't come. Instead, people started acting different. In the lunchroom, Brent and Chase were still around, but quiet. No smirks. No bumping into people. Chase avoided eye contact. Brent sat with a different crowd now, and even that crowd didn't laugh as much. Malik still kept to his usual spot by the window. Still didn't say much. But now, others started sitting a little closer. Not with boldness, but with curiosity. One girl, a 7th grader named Lacey, stopped by his table on Tuesday. "My brother's in 8th, she said softly. "He said you stopped a fight without hitting anybody. Is that true?" Malik looked at her, then nodded once. "That's kinda cool," she said, and walked away before he could reply. At first, Malik didn't know what to do with that kind of attention. He hadn't asked for it, hadn't performed. But something Ms. Keene had said kept coming back to him. You didn't change who you were. You changed how people see everyone like you. It wasn't about what happened behind the field anymore. It was about what hadn't happened since. No retaliation. No bragging. No collapse into the label others had tried to stamp on him. That Thursday, Malik was called to the front office near the end of 6th period. Ms. Keene waited by the copier, holding a single sheet of paper in her hand. "I want you to see something," she said, offering it to him. At the top, bold letters read, "Student Voice Circle, Real Talk, Real Change. 12 students, 2 teachers. One goal, listen to each other. Not just about bullying, but about everything, race, labels, silence, identity. I'm putting together a group," Ms. Keene said. "A pilot, and I don't want you in it." Malik raised an eyebrow. "I want you to help lead it." He froze. "Me? You're already doing it," she said, without realizing, just by how you've handled all this. Malik sat down slowly in one of the office chairs. He looked at the flyer again. "I'm not really a leader," he said. Ms. Keene tilted her head. "You don't have to be loud to lead." Malik didn't answer right away. He thought about Tyler, about Lacey, about how people had started to shift, not because he asked them to, but because he didn't bend. Finally, he said, "I'll try." Ms. Keene smiled. "That's all I'm asking." And in that moment, the weight Malik had carried, not just from Brookdale, but from every school before it, felt a little lighter. He wasn't just surviving anymore. He was beginning to shape what came next. The following week, the Student Voice Circle held its first meeting in the library after school. 12 students, 2 teachers, 1 counselor. No desk rows, no lectures, just a circle of chairs and the space to be honest. Malik sat quietly at first, just listening. The group was a mix, some kids who had been bullied, some who'd stayed silent too long, and a few who were just trying to understand what they'd missed. When it came his turn, Malik didn't try to impress. He didn't rehearse. He just spoke. "My uncle used to say strength isn't about how fast you hit," he told them. "It's about how much you can carry without letting it change who you are." The room held still after that, not with discomfort, but with respect. Dev gave him a soft clap. A few students nodded. Even a 6th grader, who hadn't said a word all meeting, finally raised his hand to speak. Something was happening. Not loud, but real. The circle became a regular thing after that, once a week. Malik never tried to lead it. He didn't have to. People leaned in when he spoke. That was enough. And in the days that followed, the school continued to shift. Students started checking each other in subtle ways. Jokes that used to land cruel now came with awkward silences. A dropped backpack in the hallway got picked up without a word. Two boys arguing over a basketball stepped back before a teacher even stepped in. Malik didn't win a medal. There was no assembly or applause. But the quiet was different now. Not fear, reflection. At lunch, Dev leaned over and asked, "You see the email?" Malik blinked. "What email?" "From Chase. He sent it this morning." Malik checked his phone when he got home. The subject line was simple: apology. Inside were just a few sentences. "I was wrong. I messed with you and dragged Dev into it. I thought being loud made me strong. But you showed everyone what real strength looks like. I don't expect you to reply. Just didn't want to keep pretending I didn't know what I did." Malik read it twice, then again. He didn't feel triumphant. He just felt still. The next day, Chase didn't say a word. Just passed Malik in the hallway and gave him a quiet nod. Malik didn't return it, but he didn't ignore it either. Some things Malik had learned didn't need a reply. Later that week, Ms. Keene stopped Malik in front of the bulletin board outside the media room. They were taping up new flyers for the voice circle. At the top of each one, "Your voice matters here." "You did good," she said softly. "I didn't do much," Malik replied. She smiled. Exactly. When he walked out of school that afternoon, the wind was cool, and the sky had just begun to soften into early evening light. His mom would be home soon. Dinner would be warm. The world outside felt calm, but the calm wasn't emptiness. It was earned. In a school where silence had once meant fear, it now meant reflection. Where laughter had once been a weapon, it now made room for kindness. And in the eyes of students who had once looked through him, Malik finally saw something new. Respect. Not because he demanded it, but because he carried it, quietly, until others learned how to see it. Some stories shout their lessons. Others whisper them. Malik Thompson's story whispered. In a world where noise is mistaken for power, where shouting is often equated with strength, and where silence, especially from a young black boy, is too often twisted into threat or defiance, Malik chose a different kind of power. He chose restraint, and that restraint became his revolution. From the moment Malik stepped into Brookdale Middle, the world around him tried to decide who he was before he even opened his mouth. They looked at his skin, at the way he kept to himself, and drew their conclusions, wrong ones. He was labeled cold, angry, dangerous, all because he was quiet, because he wouldn't play the part they had silently scripted for him. But what they didn't expect was that beneath that silence was discipline. Under that stillness was steel. When Brent and Chase tried to provoke him, through words, through milk spilled onto a cafeteria floor, through shoves masked as jokes, Malik didn't break. He didn't swing. He waited. And when the moment finally came behind that field, and a friend was in danger, Malik didn't unleash fury. He applied precision. He acted with control, not to humiliate or dominate, but to protect. And then he walked away. No chest beating. No speeches. Just quiet power. The result? The entire school shifted. The bullies silenced themselves. The staff took notice. The ones who laughed before started listening. And Malik, without asking for a podium, without ever raising his voice, became a leader. But perhaps the real lesson isn't just in what Malik did. It's in what he didn't do. He didn't surrender his identity to survive. He didn't retaliate just to be seen. He didn't let anger do the talking, even when the world practically begged him to. In doing so, Malik revealed something that speaks especially to those of us who have lived long enough to know that real strength is rarely loud. It's in the grandfather who chooses patience over shouting. The mother who holds a family together without ever asking for credit. The veteran who's seen war, but never brags about survival. The young man who diffuses a moment not with his fists, but with his presence. Malik reminded us of this. You don't have to be loud to leave a mark. Sometimes the strongest people are the quiet ones. The ones who hold the weight without crumbling. The ones who walk through the fire, not to be heroes, but to make sure no one else gets burned. And if there's one truth we should all carry, especially in this loud, divided world, it's this. When you know who you are, no one else gets to decide it for you. That was Malik's strength. And maybe in some way it can be ours too. What does real strength mean to you? Is it knowing when to stand your ground, or when to walk away? After hearing Malik's story, how he used quiet confidence instead of anger to change his school, do you think our world gives enough credit to people who lead with restraint, not volume? Share your thoughts below. And if this story moved you, don't forget to like, comment, and share it with someone who needs to hear it.